welcome back to the Local Loop. Today I have Katie Benson from our team.
Hi.
And we are going to talk to you about the home buying process here in Greenwich, because it is a little different here, Katie, in Greenwich than, say, it is in other parts of the country. So, yeah.
And if you're a new buyer, you probably don't even know anything about, how we differ from other states. And like I said to Joy earlier when we were on the phone, I recently took out a new buyer this weekend, and I didn't really understand how much they didn't know. And so it was super helpful for them just to hear what was the next step once they were to find a home.
Yeah, so here we developed a step-by-step process because we realized there are a lot of things that people don't know, and we take it for granted that they do know. And so one of the first things that we always ask people to do, and it makes sense, is to get a pre-approval, right, to find out what their buying power is.
Yes, which I didn't know about that. I had always heard about pre-qualification. But in Greenwich, pre-approval is super important. And you don't ever really give an offer to a home unless they do have this pre-approval letter, because the seller needs to make sure that buyer is qualified to purchase the house.
Absolutely.
And it's super easy to get a pre-approval.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You can get it like that.
Like 24, 48 hours.
And it's no cost to the buyer, which some people think it's going to cost them money or that there might be an obligation. There's none of that.
It's not binding. It's free to you. You should always be able to get it within 24 to 48 hours. And if your bank can't do it, Joy and I and our team, we've got a lot of lenders and mortgage brokers that we recommend.
Exactly, yeah. And then it's important for you to sit down with your agent so that they can really understand your needs, right? We call that a buyer, we really interview the buyer and ask them questions that oftentimes they haven't thought about. Like I spoke to this couple last night and she was like, I definitely want like 2 floors. And he was like, no, I like a ranch. And I was like, okay, we have to be on the same page here.
Right. There's lots of homes for sale.
Exactly.
So you need to narrow it down. But once you have that pre-approval and once you do find the home, there's sort of like 4 to 5 steps that are super important that they do quickly.
Yeah.
So they don't lose the house.
Exactly.
Right?
So what's important to note here in Greenwich is that we do not have binders. So if you're to buy a house, say even in Stamford or Westport, they tend to use binders, which is a binding like offer. And once the seller signs it, then it's a contract. Here in Greenwich, we go straight to contract, and we are an attorney state. So it's important that once you identify the house that you like, then like one of us would do an evaluation to help you get to the right price to negotiate with the seller to have a fair sale price. And then the next step would be inspections.
Right. Once the seller accepts your offer, then you're going to have contingencies, right?
Correct.
So to help you out, you're going to most likely have a home inspection contingency.
Right. As well as a mortgage contingency if you're planning on getting a mortgage.
And how quickly should that home inspection happen?
I would say almost immediately.
Okay.
So unlike a binder where you have a certain amount of time and you're almost protected as a buyer to do all your due diligence, here in Greenwich there isn't that protection. So it's done like this in New York City as well, where once you have an accepted offer and you still need to do the inspection before you sign a contract, the seller is still showing that house and their agent is still showing the house. So there's an opportunity for someone else to come in, see the house, and be like, oh, I love this house.
And offer a higher price.
Right. And the broker's going to say, so the broker's going to say, sorry, we have an offer on the table, or we've accepted an offer. And they'll be like, oh, well, you haven't signed a contract yet. Can we put in an offer as well?
And they will, which is so frustrating. I've had that happen twice.
Yeah.
So once you have an accepted offer, 2 to 3 days, you should have that home inspection.
Exactly.
Then you should get that report from your home inspector within 24 hours. Sometimes they could even do that same day. Exactly. And that report's going to be 24 pages. You send that to us. We help look through it as well. And as quickly as we can, we should figure out what we want to go back to. Something needs to be fixed.
Correct. If there's something that is like of health and safety issue, then yes, we're going to absolutely fight for you. Some things, like if they say the boiler is on its 12th year and it has a 15-year lifespan,
it's still working.
It's still working. It's like, so that you know that within a few years you might need to allocate money for that replacement.
Right. And while the home inspection is going on, you should be contacting attorneys.
Yes.
So that once you finalize negotiate, what's going to happen with the home and the inspection items, then your attorney will get a contract from the seller's attorney.
Correct.
So you want to make sure that you're talking to attorneys probably at the same time that you're interviewing home inspectors.
Exactly, because you want to prepare to sign that contract as soon as possible, because that's the only thing that's going to protect you from someone else swooping in and buying that house from under you.
Right.
What's also important is that you liquidate your funds so that you can put your 10% down when you sign that contract. Oftentimes people get to that step where they're ready to sign the contract and they're like, oh, but I have to.
I didn't know I needed that, right? I've had that. And so then the contract was 2 to 3 more days for them to get those funds to their attorney.
Right. So that's really important as well. And then your attorney does most of the research for the title search, and
then hopefully you sign contracts. Like in a perfect day, from the time you put an offer in to home inspection to contract negotiation, it's in your best interest as a buyer to move this along very quickly. Because then that means the house comes off the market and you're safe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then once that happens, and we've had a buyer, who didn't know this either, is that you have to get that executed contract over to your mortgage broker as soon as possible.
Yes, because then they do the appraisal to make sure that then your mortgage...
And they start the whole mortgage process for you. Yeah.
And then we have the walkthrough, right? We have the final walkthrough.
The final walkthrough is usually done the day of or the day before the closing, and it's to make sure that everything is in working order the way that it, before the furniture was moved out and everything else. You want to make sure that the house looks good, and then it's exciting. Then you
close.
And then you get your keys. Yes, yeah. So that's pretty much the home buying process. I think, I think another topic would be like questions that you should talk about with your agent before you start your home search, so that they can better understand your needs. But
like what you want. Right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
But that will be another loop.
Helpful.
Yeah, we hope that was helpful, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching.